Welcome to Horror Hub 88, your dark frequency. Subscribe, or the static gets louder. Okay, you want scary? You want the kind of story that slithers into your gut and twists? Buckle up, literally. Because tonight, we're taking a little drive down Suscon Road 5. That pitch-black ribbon of asphalt where the pines press in like mourners at a funeral, and the only light comes from the sickly yellow moon bleeding through the clouds. And we're not just driving, we're testing a legend. The kind whispered about in choked voices after too many beers. The kind that makes your knuckles go white on the steering wheel when you're alone out here past midnight. They call it the highway ritual. Here's how it goes. Find the loneliest stretch. Kill the engine. Place your car keys on the roof. Then, you gotta scream it, loud enough to crack your throat 3 times. I believe, supposedly, if you do it right, if you mean it, something appears in your rear view mirror. Something that wasn't there before. Sounds like total BS, right? That's exactly what Chad, my idiot best friend, said when he dug up this little gem online. His beat-up Chevy Nova idled like a nervous horse beneath the towering pines, the headlights carving pathetic cones in the suffocating darkness. Come on, Jake, live a little. Chad's voice was too loud, trying too hard to fill the void pressing against the windows. Beside me, Sarah, Chad's girlfriend, chewed her thumbnail raw, her eyes wide, reflecting the dash lights like a spooked deer. "This is stupid, Chad," she whispered, the sound swallowed by the thick silence outside. "Stupid?" Chad grinned, that reckless, stupid grin that usually meant trouble. "Nah, it's tradition, like urban exploration, but for adrenaline junkies with cars." He killed the engine. The sudden silence was a physical blow, thick and heavy. All we heard was the frantic thumping of our own hearts and the oppressive rustle of the pines in a wind we couldn't feel inside the car. The darkness outside wasn't just absence of light. It felt alive, watchful. Chad fumbled with his keys, the metallic jingle absurdly loud. "Okay, step 1. He rolled down his window, a rush of cold, pine-scented air flooding in, smelling strangely of damp earth and something else, something faintly metallic, like old blood. He reached out, placed the keys carefully on the Nova's roof. Clink. The sound echoed in the stillness. Sarah flinched. "Chad, please, let's just go," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Step 2. Chad ignored her, puffing out his chest like a rooster. He took a deep, theatrical breath. "I believe." His shout ripped through the quiet, startling us all. It sounded thin, desperate, swallowed by the vastness. "Louder, idiot!" I hissed, a cold prickle starting at the base of my spine. This wasn't funny anymore. It felt wrong. Chad cleared his throat, tried again. "I believe." Better, more conviction, or maybe just desperation. One more. He sucked in another breath, his face contorted. "I believe." His voice cracked, choked off. His eyes, fixed straight ahead a second before, flicked instinctively, inevitably to the rearview mirror. His face drained of color, the reckless grin vanishing like smoke. "Oh God," he breathed, the sound barely audible. Sarah whimpered. My own gaze snapped to the mirror. For a heartbeat, nothing. Just the empty ink-black road receding behind us, framed by the oppressive wall of pines. Then, a figure, standing impossibly still, maybe 50 yards back, right in the center of our twin beams of light, which seemed unable to penetrate the thick darkness clinging to it. Tall, thin, time 500 milliseconds. Unnaturally so. And its face. Oh God, its face. was a wide, impossibly wide slash of pure white in the gloom. A grin that stretched far too wide, far too high, splitting the darkness where its head should be. It wasn't moving, just standing there, grinning at us in the mirror. The silence in the car wasn't silence anymore. It was a vacuum, sucking the air, the warmth, the very sense out of the world. That grin in the rearview mirror, that impossible rictus slash of white hanging in the darkness 50 yards back, froze the blood in my veins. It wasn't human. Nothing with a face like that could be human. Chad made a sound, a wet, strangled gasp like a fish thrown onto a dock. "Keys!" he choked out, fumbling blindly beside him, his eyes locked, horrified, on the mirror. "Get the keys!" Sarah screamed, a short, sharp burst of pure terror that shattered the awful stillness. It broke the spell. Chad lunged for the door handle, scrabbling at it with trembling fingers. "No!" I yelled, grabbing his arm. "Don't open it! Just start the car!" He stared at me, wild-eyed, then back at the mirror. The figure hadn't moved. It just stood there, bathed in the red glow of our taillights, that terrible grin fixed in place, watching us. Chad's hand shot to the ignition, fumbling for the key that wasn't there. Realization dawned, slow and horrifying. The keys. On the roof, outside. "Oh God, oh God, oh God," Sarah sobbed, rocking back and forth, her hands pressed over her mouth, her eyes wide and unblinking, fixed on the rear window. "It's still there," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It's still looking." Chad frantically patted his pockets, a useless, panicked gesture. "The keys are out there!" he roared, the sound raw with terror. He whirled towards the window, hand hovering over the handle again, caught between the paralyzing fear of that thing outside and the desperate need to retrieve the only thing that could get us moving. My own heart hammered against my ribs like a frantic bird. "Think, Jake, think!" Could we drive without the key? No. The Nova was ancient, not some push-button start. I wouldn't know how, and even if I did, it would take time. Precious seconds we didn't have. I forced myself to look back at the mirror. It was hard to tell at this distance in the dark, but the angle seemed slightly different. Number. The grin seemed wider, brighter, hungrier. "Are you insane?" Sarah shrieked, finding her voice. "Look at it!" "We can't stay here," Chad shot back, his fear turning into a frantic energy. "It's coming." Was it? The figure remained statue still. It was coming, savoring it. Chad made a decision. "I'll do it. When I say go, unlock it." "Chad, no!" Sarah cried, grabbing his arm. "Please! We don't have a choice!" he snapped, pulling his arm free. Stupid, reckless Chad. That time. "1 second. Be ready," he hissed at me, his eyes flicking to the power lock button on my door. Took another ragged breath. "Go." My fingers slammed down on the unlock button. Clunk of the locks disengaging sounded like a gunshot. Chad threw his door open. The interior light blazed on, a sudden, shocking rectangle of yellow in the vast darkness. That impossibly wide, lipless maw. Silent, covering the ground with impossible, unnatural speed, its long, thin limbs seeming to barely touch the asphalt. The world narrowed to the blinding rectangle of light from the open car door, Chad's outstretched arm, and the thing gliding towards him with nightmare speed. 20 yards became 10 in the space of a frantic heartbeat. That grin, a cavernous, jagged gash of bone white in the gloom, filled my vision, sucking the warmth from my soul. "Chad!" Sarah's scream ripped through the night, raw and primal. Chad's fingers scrabbled on the cold, gritty metal of the Nova's roof. He found the keys. "Grab them! Got 'em!" he yelled, a desperate triumph in his voice, already pulling back, twisting to dive back into the car. He was halfway in, one foot still on the road, when it reached him. Not a run. A flow, like oil spreading on water. The next, it filled the open doorway. Tall. The smell hit us. Not decay, but something older, colder, like ozone and dry tombs and forgotten places deep underground. Up close, the grin wasn't just wide, everything. No nose, fixed on Chad. Chad froze, trapped halfway, paralyzed by the sheer, monstrous presence looming over him. Not yet. The dark pits seemed to drink the light, pulling Chad's gaze in. "Drive." Sarah whimpered beside me, her voice a broken thread. "Start the car." The keys, if I could reach them, but the thing filled the doorway. Moving felt impossible. The figure tilted its head, a grotesque bird-like motion, or smelling. Then it spoke. Not with a voice. A dry, papery rustle, like dead leaves skittering across stone, combined with a high-pitched, insectile chittering that vibrated in my teeth. "Believer?" it hissed. The sound grating. Ancient. "You called." Chad finally found his voice. He thrashed, trying to pull himself fully into the car, kicking out blindly with his foot still on the road. The movement seemed to break the thing's eerie focus. One impossibly long, spindly arm, ending in fingers like bleached twigs, shot out with viper speed. Not to grab Chad. Crunch. Chad screamed again, pure agony this time, as the door, his leg still caught in the opening, was slammed shut with inhuman force. Level strong. "Crack!" Sarah shrieked, covering her face. His leg was bent at a sickening angle, pinned in the door's gap by the thing's unbreakable grip. The figure loomed in the window, its grin pressing against the glass, those dark pits staring in at us, at Chad's agony. To pull the door open again, deliberately. It wasn't trying to get in, it was trying to pull Chad out. Chad's scream curdled into a guttural, animal sound, ripped raw from his throat as the thing outside pulled on the door. Metal shrieked in protest. The Nova rocked violently on its suspension. "Jake, the keys!" Sarah shrieked, her voice piercing the cacophony of Chad's agony and the tortured metal. She was pointing, trembling, at the floor mat where the keys had fallen near my feet. Reality snapped back with brutal clarity. Chad was trapped, his leg mangled. That thing trying to peel the car open like a tin can to get to him. Inside, we could get away. If I could just reach them, if the car would start, if we could leave Chad. The thought was ice in my veins. But survival screamed louder. There. The car lurched again violently as the thing outside heaved. "Stop it, please, stop!" My fingertips brushed cold metal. I snatched the keys, fumbling, my hands slick with sweat. "Sarah, hold him!" I yelled, jabbing the key towards the ignition. Missed. Outside, the grinning face pressed closer against the window, the dark pits seeming to drill into my soul. "Believer! Stays!" "Shut up!" I screamed. Not at Sarah, not at Chad, at the thing. Found the slot. "Come on!" I turned the key. The starter motor whined. Whirr! Nothing. No ignition. Just the desperate whine of the starter, over and over. "No!" Sarah cried, despair cracking her voice. The thing outside understood. It stopped pulling on the door. It took a single, gliding step back from the car. Was it leaving? Number it tilted its head back, those bottomless pits aimed at the sky or the roof of the car. The hand, with those twig-like fingers, curled into a fist. It paused, not on the door, on the roof, Thoom. The impact was colossal. Like a sack of concrete dropped from a building, the roof above us caved inwards with a shriek of tortured metal, forming a deep, fist-shaped dent inches above our heads. Glass from the dome light showered down like jagged rain. Chad whimpered, his eyes rolling back. The starter was still whining, a dying insect sound, blurring my vision. "Start! Please start! Thoom!" Another colossal blow landed, right next to the first dent. The metal seams above the windshield split with a sharp crack. Thoom! A third impact, directly above my head. I ducked instinctively, still turning the key, the whine growing weaker, fainter. We were dying. The blows stopped. The only sounds were our ragged breathing, Chad's pained moans, and the faint, dying whine of the starter. It seemed amused. Then, slowly, deliberately, it raised one long, bony finger, a single finger tipped with something dark and pointed like a claw. Scritch, scritch, carving a line through the glass, inch by agonizing inch, just marking it, claiming us. The scritch. Scryage of the claw on the glass was worse than the blows. It scraped directly across my nerves, a slow, deliberate violation. The thin white line it etched grew longer, creeping down the window like a poisonous vine. Chad had passed out, slumped against Sarah, his breathing shallow and ragged. My hand still clutched the key in the ignition, frozen, dead. The figure lowered its claw-like finger. Those bottomless pits stared in, seeming to absorb the feeble light, leaving only the stark, horrifying outline of that impossible grin. Slowly, deliberately, it tapped the glass with one long fingernail. Tap, tap, like it was knocking. Patient. The absurdity of it, the sheer, monstrous mockery, broke something inside me. "Get away from us!" I screamed, slamming my fist against the dashboard. "Leave us alone!" The tapping stopped. Then it straightened. Hope, treacherous and frail, flickered again. Slowly, deliberately, it began to walk away, back down the dark road, towards the spot where it had first appeared. 20 yards. The red glow of our taillights barely touched it now. Almost gone. Relief, thick and dizzying, washed over me. We'd survived. "Oh, thank God," Sarah sobbed, burying her face in Chad's hair. Then the figure stopped. It stood perfectly still, facing away, about 50 yards down the road. Not walking. Inch by inch, its silhouette shifted against the backdrop of dark pines, facing the car again, and then it started walking back. Same silent glide, covering the distance between us with terrifying inevitability. "No," Sarah breathed. The word a prayer, a denial. "No, no, no." Panic seized me again, cold and sharp. Dead. Mine? Sarah's? The windows. Run, unconscious, leg shattered. They landed on the glove compartment. Maybe road flares. Worthless against that, but better than nothing. I lunged across Sarah, fumbling for the latch. "What are you doing?" she cried. "Something," I gasped, yanking the compartment open. No flares, just a small, heavy cylinder. Could fire hurt it? But light thumbed the wheel. I held it up, towards the windshield, towards the approaching horror. The figure didn't pause, it kept coming. The light from the tiny flame reflected in those bottomless pits, not as fear, but as two tiny, cold points of orange light, like distant stars in a dead sky. 5 yards. It leaned down, bringing that terrible face level with the windshield, peering through the glass at the tiny flame in my trembling hand. The dry, rustling, chittering sound started again, softer this time, almost thoughtful. Then, slowly, it raised one long finger, not the claw, but a different one. Not at me. Past us. I didn't want to look. Had to look. Slowly, my neck creaking with tension, I turned my head. The back seat was empty, except for the rearview mirror. And in the mirror, reflected with perfect, horrifying clarity, stood the figure. Right behind the car. But it was also still outside the windshield. In front of us. Two of them. The one outside the windshield leaned closer, its breath fogging the glass. A cold, white mist that smelled of graves. The impossible duality shattered my mind. The grinning horror outside the windshield, fogging the glass with its grave-cold breath, and its perfect, silent reflection in the rearview mirror, now standing mere feet behind the bumper. One impossible thing in two places. The logic, the reality, dissolved into screaming static. A low, guttural moan escaped her, a sound of utter cognitive collapse. The one in the rearview mirror raised its hand, the same long, spindly arm ending in twig-like fingers, and placed its palm flat against the Nova's trunk lid. Just a touch, final. Then, both figures, the one before us and the one behind, mirrored each other perfectly, and they opened their mouths. Not to chitter, scream. The sound that tore from them wasn't sound. It hit the car like a physical wave, exploded inward in a cascade of razor-sharp glass. I ducked, shielding my face. The Zippo flame snuffed out instantly. It was the shriek of a dying universe, the wail of forgotten gods, the last cry of everything damned. It stopped as suddenly as it began. Cold night air, smelling of pine and shattered safety, flooded the ruined car. I could feel the warm trickle down my neck. The figure outside the windshield was gone. Frantically, I twisted to look in the rearview mirror, cracked, but still intact. No figure. Just the twin red eyes of our useless taillights glowing weakly into the void. Gone? What? He mumbled, delirious. Sarah lifted her head, her face a mask of blood and tears from the glass. I didn't answer. The key was still there. Maybe, like jump-starting a dead battery with lightning. With trembling, bleeding hands, I reached for the key. I took a shuddering breath. Weak, pitiful. We were still trapped, surrounded by shattered glass and a roof caved in by impossible fists. Somewhere. We have to get out, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. With Chad? I asked. The despair thickened my throat. Level moderate, carry him, she said, a desperate strength in her eyes. She was right. Cat and mouse. It would be back. Now I nodded, swallowing hard. Driver's side is crushed. Cold air bit my skin. Sarah climbed out first, glass crunching under her shoes. He cried out, then fell silent again, unconscious or worse. Standing outside the ruined Nova, the vast, suffocating darkness of Suscon Road pressed in from all sides. Which way? Towards town, miles away. Town, she breathed. We couldn't carry Chad far. I grabbed his shoulders. We started shuffling, away from the car, away from the spot where the ritual had begun. Back down the dark road. Every rustle in the woods made us freeze, hearts pounding. We'd gone maybe 20 yards when Sarah stopped, gasping. I followed her gaze, back towards the Nova, like a piece of fingernail. A fang, and as we stared, frozen in horror, a dry, rustling, chittering laugh seemed to drift from the woods beside us, echoing the sound the thing had made. Very close. It wasn't behind. It was beside the road, keeping pace, waiting for us to tire. The highway ritual wasn't over. It had only just begun.